Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. You guys, I have the most exciting announcement to make on here. If you've been following me on Instagram, you would have already seen it. I got my broker's license here in Chicago. Up until this point, I've been a residential leasing agent, which means that I've been able to assist in helping clients find rentals in the city. So that's why all of my videos have been very rental centric. I think I'll always have a huge love for rentals, but I got my broker's license, which means that I can do sales now, which I am so excited for. This is really exciting because so many of my clients here in the city, because they've rented for a few years with me, they're now looking to buy. And I wanted to be able to keep and maintain those relationships. Like, these people are like my friends at this point, and I didn't want to have to pass them over. I'm able to do these myself, and that's just like, I can't wait. This was a huge lift for me. The whole process was low-key quite overwhelming. So I wanted to make a video today, number one, just to announce that I'm done and I'm so freaking happy. But number two, to kind of walk you guys through everything that you would need to know and you would need to do if you're looking to get your broker's license in Chicago. I can't say that this is the same across the board. I honestly just don't know. I've only ever gotten my real estate licenses here in Chicago, so it might be very similar to what they do in other states, but this is my experience for here. For reference, got my residential leasing agent license in 2020. The book for leasing is about this big. It is 15 hours of coursework, and then you do your final and you do your state test. Looking back, I wish I had just done the broker's license right off the bat, because I did the leasing, waited about 2 years, and then did my broker's license, and it was just like such an extra step to have to do all of the schooling all over again. I graduated college in 2016, so it's been a hot minute since I've been out of school. I've realized I have the attention span of a freaking goldfish at this point, and studying was so hard for me. I wish I would have just done it once, because then I don't need to do it again. The residential leasing agent license is a 15-hour course. For the broker's license, it is 75 hours. Your textbook is about this thick. It is so much more than what you do for leasing, because there's just a lot more material that goes into it. For both of these licenses, they don't actually teach you how to be an agent. Like, it doesn't say anything about how to get clients, how to work with clients, how to pull options, like any of that stuff. It is all just vocabulary and like technical things. Like, so much of it is just stuff that like an attorney needs to know that I legally couldn't even advise someone on, but I have to learn it for my course. Anywho, there are a ton of different schools that you can do your like 75-hour coursework through. I can only speak on my experience. I've used Real Estate Institute for both my leasing and my broker's course, but there are lots of different courses. So find one that fits you best. I have a whole video on the leasing license, so I'm going to kind of stop talking about that. And if you're interested, I'll pop that one up here if you want to go check that out, and the video is in the description box as well. But for the broker's course, it's usually about $600 if you do it self-taught, or it's $700 if you do a class. I originally signed up for it last summer. That was when I was planning on getting my course done. And I did the webinar style classes, and honestly, that was my biggest mistake. I should not have done that. I do not learn well from webinars, and I just had a really hard time with it. I don't feel like I picked up on any of the material. I didn't do my like unit tests along with like the pace of the course. I just didn't get it done in the time frame that I should have. Moving on, I basically waited just about a year, and then this summer I decided to pick up on it again. I was so frustrated with myself. I just did the self-taught and really took like a week and a half time frame to bust it out. I studied for probably about 4 hours every single day for about a week and a half, and then just did my final as quick as I could and did my license as quick as I could, and was able to pass through. There's so much coursework. There's so much vocabulary that goes into it. I've heard really good things about doing the in-person courses, and I know different schools do different things, but at Real Estate Institute in particular, they have one that's over a 2-week time frame where you're basically in there like 8 hours a day for the 2 weeks, or they have options where it's like 3, 5, 6, or 8 weeks, and your classes are more spaced out depending on what your schedule is that fits your needs best. If I was to start all over from the very beginning, I would have done the 2-week directed course, because I think that's how I would have learned the best. And then you just immediately take your final after that, and then you get your license. It wouldn't have dragged it on to be this year-long process that it really didn't need to be for me, but it just stressed me out like so much more doing it that way. For Real Estate Institute, when I did it with them, they have like 24 different chapters, and then the chapters are broken down into 6 different units. And online there was a ton of practice tests. So that was what really got me through, was I was able to just do like so many practice tests. So I would do the practice tests for each chapter until I knew all of the questions and memorized them. And then I would do the unit tests. That way I could pass through. And so once I completed all 6 of those, there was like practice final exams that I was able to take. So I did those a ton. And I also used a secondary teaching platform, which is called ExamSmart. ExamSmart was crucial for me because it just gave me like so many more test questions that I was able to do, because I'm really good at memorizing test questions if I see them again and again. But if you put me in front of like just reading a textbook, like I won't absorb that information as well. So ExamSmart was great. And what I really loved about ExamSmart, when you get your license, you have to do the national and state test. They are 2 separate ones, but you take them at the same time. But ExamSmart would break it down and show me what I got percentage-wise based on each of the different topics. So if I didn't do well in property management or in financing, like I could go back and just refresh myself on those topics. I could just hone in on where I needed to really put more effort. After those like 10-ish days of me just studying like crazy and spending so much time on it, I felt like I knew the information really, really well and really confidently that I was able to do the final exam. It was an online proctored test, so I wanted to take it immediately, but I unfortunately had to wait like 4 days or something like that, because you can't do the tests over the weekend and you have to have someone like live proctoring your computer. So I scheduled that final exam at like 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I did it. And I was really glad to be done with that. Like, I don't want to discredit that, because passing the course is something that's really hard. And a lot of people do not pass that final exam on the first time. But in my experience, I was still just like so frustrated that I wasn't done, that like I didn't have this wave of relief. I was just like, all right, well, one step closer. Another reason of why I wish I did my broker's license in the beginning instead of doing my leasing agent license was, at this point, I'm so busy with my leasing career on top of doing content creation and YouTube and all these other things, that I was like, am I really going to spend like all of this time on this license with the possibility of me failing? That really freaked me out. And so there was a lot of tears. We'll pop up some pictures. I may have laid on the ground at one point and cried, because you can't get any lower than the ground. But after that one was done, I was able to go ahead and schedule my state and national exam. Like, those are my licensing courses. Once those are done, I'm done. Bad thing about that is there's limited availability, and everything from the point of taking your final kind of just takes a little bit, because they have to inform the state. So once your final's done, your school has to let the state know that you've passed the course and completed your final. You are not allowed to take a state and national licensing test without having them recognize that you passed the schooling for it, because that 75 hours is a requirement. So I had to wait for that. That took about 48 hours. Once that was logged in, I was then able to schedule the tests, but there's limited availability. One thing that's been really nice since 2020 is that you can now do your state and national exams from home and have it be a proctored exam as well. When I did my leasing agent license, that was not a possibility, and I had to go into a testing center, which is fine. And you're still able to do that if you're someone who like that works well for you. But for me, like the anxiety of like getting on the train and getting to the testing center and then waiting for them to tell me to start, I hated the idea of that. And if I can just do it from home, that's so much easier. Plus, there was a lot more flexibility with timing when doing it from home. So I was actually able to take my state and national exam at 8 p.m. on a Sunday, which was like, I was just so done at that point. But got it done. It's 110 questions for the national, and then like 50 questions for the state. For any license, there's always like a 10-question survey at the end that basically just says, how was your proctor? If you're in person, was the temperature comfortable? Was it quiet enough? Like all of these things. So I'm at the end of answering all of those questions. I'm answering my final one. And as I clicked it, a little pop-up came up on the screen that said, oh, you've reached your 90 minutes. Do you need more time? And I was like, no, I'm done. Like, this is the last question. So I clicked no. And right as I clicked no, the pop-up from the proctor popped up and said, please do not click anything. And my entire system just shut down. You have a specific app on your computer for the testing center and everything just quit. And I was ready to just like lay on the floor and cry some more. Like, I was so over it. And ugh, it stresses me out even to think about it. So I like tried calling the help number. It's at this point 9:45 p.m. on a Sunday, so nothing's open, so they're not answering. And so I like went back into the Proctor app. When you log in, it's like 15 minutes worth of showing your area and making sure that you're in a secure place. So you have to like scan ceiling to floor. You have to do a full 360 of your desk. You have to like zoom in on your desk. I had to show my wrists. I had to take all of my bracelets and stuff off. You have to show your ears and show that you don't have headphones in. Like, it's a whole big thing. And so for me to log back in, I had to do all of that over again. And I was just like clicking next. I was like, I've already done this. Like, my test is done. Just let me know if I'm going to have to redo this whole thing, or like, is it saved somewhere? And so at one point, like, it asks you to do a selfie because you have to have a picture of yourself on your thing that says like pass or fail. And I'll pop my selfie up on the screen. But I was just like you can see the fear in my face. Like, I was not a happy camper. Luckily, I was able to log back in, and the Proctor popped back up and was just like, yay, you disconnected, but your answers have saved. We can go ahead and submit it now. And so we submitted it, and I passed on both of them, and I am done. So at that point, you wait until you get your results to your email, and then you send it over to the IDFPR. IDFPR is who holds your license, so they need to make sure that like you have to be registered with them to be able to actually start conducting like work. But yeah, that is basically the whole breakdown of everything that you need to do in order to get your broker's license. To be able to take the tests state and nationally, that's about $60. And then to then register your license with IDFPR is an additional, I think, $120. So there are quite a few fees that go into getting your license. I always want to make sure people understand that, because it's not something you can just like do on a whim. You're definitely going to want to think this through and make sure it's something that you want to do, because for your license alone, without paying for like your MLS membership fees and stuff, it's about $1,000. So keep that in mind. I am very, very excited to be done. And that being said, if anybody is looking to buy, please reach out to me. I would love to help. I am so excited to take this next step in my career, and I appreciate you guys so much, because if it wasn't for YouTube, my leasing career wouldn't have gotten to me where I am, and I wouldn't be able to do the sales career that I'm excited to get into now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that this answered some of your questions. I do have my jot form link down in the description box. I am an agent with Compass, so fill that out and I'd be happy to help. If you have any questions at all, feel free to comment down below. I might do a Q&A on Instagram all about getting your broker's license, so if you don't, please follow me over there, because I post a ton more content over there as well. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.